Can being too kind actually ruin your life? It's a question the ancient Stoics wrestled with centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius said it best: "Don't drain your well to water their garden." In other words, your generosity must have limits, or it can deplete your own strength and resources. Yet in our hurry to be seen as good people, many today have twisted kindness into a self-destructive habit. We glorify those who go to exaggerated lengths for others while secretly running themselves into the ground. True virtue is about balance, being kind but also kind to yourself, giving but not losing yourself in the process. In this video, we will explore 12 ways excessive kindness can ruin your physical, mental, and spiritual health if you don't set boundaries. Guided by Stoic wisdom, we'll learn how to be generous while still safeguarding our energy and well-being. How to truly enrich others without diminishing ourselves. Join me as we demystify the fine line between virtue and self-destruction, kindness and self-care. Applying insights from Marcus Aurelius and other Stoic philosophers, we'll find that elusive balance that makes kindness sustainable, good for others and still good for ourselves. Are you ready to give without losing yourself along the way? Number 1. People will take advantage of you. Beware the hazards of unrestrained kindness, or so the Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius would warn. In our quest to be giving and benevolent, we leave our hearts vulnerable to those looking to exploit rather than reciprocate generosity. Kindness requires discernment, lest we waste precious time and energy on one-sided relationships. Consider the friend always in crisis mode, asking for loans and favors but conveniently absent when you need support. Or the manipulative colleague who takes credit for your ideas while working far less. Too much tolerance for takers will leave you feeling drained and unappreciated, seeding bitterness below your smiling martyrdom. The truly wise understand that some people are simply emotional vampires looking for compliant hosts. By refusing to set boundaries on your kindness, you invite their parasitic behavior. Sure, it may injure your pride to stand up for yourself by withdrawing overly generous efforts, but it is better to weather that discomfort than enable dynamics that erode your self-worth and sanity. Occasional users and abusers will certainly cry foul when you stop being a doormat, but healthfully relating means not allowing anyone to exploit your better nature. Kindness must flow as an energetic exchange, both parties consciously giving and receiving. Stay vigilant against imbalance so you don't end up ruined by your own goodwill. The Stoics knew that indiscriminate kindness toes the line of weakness, while judicious caring measures true inner fortitude. Be compassionate, but not endlessly permissive. Love openly, but refuse to be used. In this way, you nourish the good in others and protect it within yourself. Your kindness remains a radiant gift, not a liability leaving you diminished. Number 2. You will build up resentment. In our eagerness to be helpful, polite, and liked, we habitually say yes to endless favors, shouldering mounting resentment as we burn out. The Stoic philosophers cautioned against this. Better to set clear boundaries so goodwill doesn't curdle into bitterness. Consider the colleague who delegates relentlessly until you're working weekends to help his projects while he takes the credit. Or the friend who needs perpetual advice but is never there when you are overwhelmed. In our desire to appear selfless, we regularly override our own needs until we feel tapped dry and unappreciated. Yet exercising disciplined kindness does not make you selfish. It makes you wisely self-aware. By knowing your energetic limits and refusing to deplete your reserves past sustainability, you maintain your spirit of generosity emanating from inner abundance, not desperation born of depletion. Offering from fullness versus emptiness makes all the difference. Occasional users may protest the tightened purse strings around your attention, time, and goodwill. But subsisting on the energy donations of others while giving nothing back creates karmic debt. True, standing up for yourself by establishing healthy boundaries isn't always easy or comfortable, but it's far better than hosting silent anger that leaks out over time, poisoning your relationships. You may worry refusing too many requests brands you uncaring in others' eyes, yet true friends worthy of your loyalty will understand when you need to recenter. And your refusals make room for inspired collaboration later, once your cup of kindness fills back up through self-care. They appreciate you have both needs and gifts to sustainably share so that the whole community prospers. The wise understand that kindness requires discernment, or else we invite exploitation from unconscious takers. Compassion must hold hands with self-care so that we can joyfully uplift our communities long-term. And by learning to say no with grace, our yeses become that much more powerful. untainted by buried resentment or scores tallied. Our kindness energizes rather than exhausts, spreading light instead of unwitting darkness. Number 3. You spread yourself too thin. In our quest to be helpful, we habitually overextend ourselves, committing to endless favors until we're spread disastrously thin. Our desire for connection and contribution devolves into profound depletion, leading to enervating stress and burnout. Slowly, the light behind our eyes dims to a flicker as we substitute caffeine for self-care, suppressing the anxieties of a wildly unsustainable pace. The Stoic philosophers caution against this self-betrayal masked as service. In our refusal to set boundaries, we undermine the very generosity we aim to share widely. After all, true kindness emanates from inner fullness, not desperation and lack. You cannot uplift others while dragging yourself about hollow and bone-weary. Beware especially the exploitation of those around you who enjoy the fruits of your labor, but will not support slowing down. Their praise for your rising sacrifices secretly serves their own interests, so their cries against your self-care should be roundly ignored. Leadership knows that to share power, we must first claim it for ourselves. While refusing some asks may first feel selfish, in truth it makes your compassion sustainable. Preserve your precious energy by dealing solely with those who reciprocate care. Seek environments where contribution begets more nurturing, not extraction that leaves you an empty husk. Stay true to the wisdom that clinics close when all doctors are laid up in adjacent hospital beds. Care for yourself first so you can then brighten other lives without ruining your own. Number 4, you neglect your own needs. In our rush to be of service, we sadly abandon ourselves, believing self-care to be selfish rather than essential. We ignore mounting exhaustion in order to sustain our image as tireless givers, pushing through untenable workloads and favor requests that leave no margin for stillness. We betray our very sustainability in the name of someday saving the world, yet the truth is we cannot uplift humanity while becoming martyrs. As the Stoics warned, real change must come through empowered actors. But how can we spread light when our own inner lamps gutters into darkness? We must honor the oxygen mask maxim. Secure your well-being first so you can then brighten other lives. Beware especially religious or cultural programming that would have you think denying personal needs makes you nobler or more spiritual. This is a cunning mind virus aiming to exploit believers into conformity and compliance. No truly loving creator would want its creation diminished through runaway self-sacrifice. While it may seem easier to keep ignoring your own cries for rest, nourishment, and care, this strategy ultimately fails. You cannot fight for others when waging war upon yourself. Allow your compassion to first reach that aching part within begging for relief, so you can then extend benevolence outward sustainably. The wise understand that living saintly includes loving fully the person in the mirror too. Number 5, you struggle to say no. For those wired for kindness, the ability to say no seems unconscionable, even dangerous. Won't refusing requests brand us selfish or uncaring? Yet in our breathless rush to accept every ask, we stretch ourselves perilously thin, depleting precious internal resources faster than we replenish them. Our self-imposed tyranny of niceness becomes unsustainable. Beware well-meaning philosophies or religions that would have you believe refusing aid is some cardinal sin. This is often just sly manipulation, playing on your guilt to exploit more of your time and energy. Yet no one uplifts the world through dutiful martyrdom. Those flames soon sputter out to nothing. Learn to refuse judiciously so your care emanates from true availability, not crippling depletion. At first, it may seem easier to suppress your resistance and keep overextending yourself past healthy limits. But you cannot sustain the welfare of others when waging war upon yourself through spiritual self-harm. Restore yourself through self-care so your compassion flows from inner abundance rather than lack. Set boundaries around favors so resentment doesn't eventually poison your goodwill. Protecting your light also means refusing relationships trading solely on extraction. Seek instead those who understand care must be reciprocal, not just you giving endlessly while running on fumes. The wise understand that living saintly includes retaining enough margins to flourish. Discern when to say no, so your beautiful yeses seem that much more precious. Number 6, you develop a loss of identity. When our highest calling becomes perpetual people-pleasing, we lose sight of the person behind the helpful facade. Over time, the very contours of our personality begin mirroring back expectations rather than our authentic nature. We relinquish personal interests as trivial compared to others' more urgent needs. Soon we forget what lights us up outside of earning appreciation through knee-jerk caretaking. Yet in our quest to become universally liked, we betray our deepest self. Our souls atrophy without nourishment from activities purely for our own enjoyment and exploration. Deprived of doing what we love, we resent those we endlessly help, even as we grow more hollow and alienated from who we were born to be. The Stoics caution that no one uplifts the world through ceaseless self-sacrifice without renewal. The wise understand that to sustain one's luminosity, periods of inner focus prove essential. There must be seasons solely for rediscovering dormant dreams and delighting in moments free from external obligations. Holding fast to your soul's North Star keeps service from becoming slavery. Beware relationships predicated on you abandoning your own compass. Give freely, but stay vigilant against losing your sovereign direction. Set kind boundaries so your journeys of self-discovery continue progressing, not just those of others. Keep sight of your mountaintops, and your generosity emanates from inspiration, not depletion. Protect what you cherish in yourself so you have beauty to keep sharing widely. Number 7. Unrealistic expectations of reciprocity arise. When we open the floodgates of kindness without discernment, silently we expect reciprocal effort as fair recompense. Yet not everyone cherishes or perceives value in what we give so freely. Soon our unilateral gifts start accumulating interest in the forms of disappointment, even resentment, when beneficiaries fail to repay debts we never clearly tendered. In our minds, showering people with help should engender their eternal gratitude and devotion. When it does not, bitterness brews underneath forced smiles. Did they forget all we've done already? Why aren't they offering more when we always say yes unconditionally? We start tallying favors and keeping score even as we pretend reciprocity demands don't burden each kindness. Yet the Stoics caution that people aid others based on their abilities and cheer, not gloomy obligation. While open-hearted generosity does often inspire gratitude, ensuring care remains joyful means few strings attached. Beware relationships becoming ledgers of who owes whom. Give simply for the pleasure of uplifting your communities. Seek comrades who match your zeal through natural enthusiasm, not guilt. Should imbalances emerge, speak up constructively about getting needs met rather than silently stewing. The wise understand that kindness given without covert contracts or expectations seldom sours relationships. Let delight drive your gifts forward rather than hope of reciprocal gain. Thus, kindness energizes rather than drains your beautiful spirit. Number 8. Your worth becomes devalued. In our rush to appear abundantly selfless, we devalue our own worth, signaling our time and talents have little inherent currency simply because we give them so freely. Yet martyrdom backfires. Those around us unconsciously internalize our anxious generosity as permission to exploit, rather than appreciate our gifts. We become victim of our own lack of healthy self-valuation. The Stoics caution that respect flows from those who know their contributions matter, and thus must be judiciously shared. But in endlessly saying yes despite our own needs, we communicate our bandwidth is worthless, our energy bottomless. People then flood us with requests, rather than questioning if we possess resources to spare. We have taught them not to value what we ourselves fail to honor first. Beware especially of environments that praise unchecked self-sacrifice. While perhaps well-meaning, this cultural messaging often serves to reinforce compliance so that the collective can better take advantage of team players unable to say no. Begin instead affirming your talents as rare and precious, gifts to uplift your communities when you have capacity while retaining sustainability. Should imbalance emerge in relationships, speak and model openly valuing your worth rather than enabling further exploitation. Communicate your offerings as precious fruits you bestow when in season, yet must guard against permanent depletion. In this way, your kindness conveys not endless people-pleasing but judicious nurturing aligned with self-care. Thus you teach others to prize rather than prey upon your beautiful spirit. Number 9. You enable unhealthy behaviors. In our quest to uplift others, we often prolong their struggles by sheltering them from life's natural feedback. We swoop in to fix everything rather than let consequences teach what we cannot speak. We inhibit their growth into self-sufficiency, handicapping them from developing resilience and wisdom. Our kindness cripples when it refuses to let learning bloom from the fertile soil of discomfort. The Stoics knew that we sometimes care more for egoic images of saintly saving than for others' deeper needs. But true compassion recognizes when short-term aid undercuts long-term empowerment. Just as loving parents must witness their children fall, skinning knees before learning to ride bikes solo, we cannot intervene in every learning opportunity and expect others to find autonomous strength. Of course, discernment remains key. Some souls require highly compassionate environments to flower, while others thrive when challenged to stretch. But witness honestly if your kindness serves as bondage, binding loved ones from confrontations that might spur growth. Consider instead how to reinforce behaviors producing independence and accountability. Model drawing strength from adversity so they too can discover their inner wells of wisdom and wit. The path of excess kindness often flows from attempting to dominate life's mysteries rather than humbly participating within them. But we cannot control all variables. By offering presence over problem solving, we teach others to seek solutions within. Thus, they learn to shine radiant no matter what storms may come. Number 10. Passive aggression starts to arise. When we override inner wisdom urging us to refuse unreasonable requests, unseen tension seeps slowly into relationships. Though our words broadcast care, our latent exhaustion and resentment transmit on other frequencies. We strike an unsustainable imbalance, saying yes while feeling no, which others unconsciously register even as we deny it. Passive aggression breeds as we fail in forcing healthy boundaries. Eventually, we may forget important things asked of us, run late, or produce half-hearted work in symbolic rebellion to exploitive demands on our time and energy. We wittingly sabotage the very people we keep agreeing to help, all while refusing to openly communicate our needs for reciprocity and restoration. Beneath the surface smiles, trust erodes as people sense something amiss, but cannot identify the source. They too begin reacting with subtle vengeance for vague feelings of ill use, misreading our accidental slights as intentional offenses. Minor issues spiral through assumptions and poor communication into major relational ruptures, all because we never learned to honor our no. The Stoics caution that authentic kindness requires truth. When asked unreasonable favors, politely decline rather than breeding collective resentment through reluctant compliance. Establish boundaries gracefully but firmly so relationships flow freely. Model self-care, not self-sacrifice. In this way, when you offer gifts from surplus rather than deficit, your generosity blesses all equally through non-resentful exchange. For abundant kindness, plant seeds in the fertile soil of healthy communication, not passive aggression. Number 11. You develop inauthentic relationships. When we habitually override our true feelings and needs in favor of people-pleasing, we deny others the gift of our most honest presence. The relationships we seek to nourish through excessive kindness become starved of our authenticity. Behind the helpful smiles we come to wear as reflexive armor, we embed our rich inner worlds from friends and partners, preventing the vulnerable sharing that cements bond. In our desire to be perpetually agreeable, we cut off pathways to intimacy by filtering and editing our genuine responses. We start interacting from masks, playing mythical roles of sages, caretakers, entertainers, anything but showing up sincerely as our flawed yet wonderful human selves. Over years, the facade becomes sticky, the suppressed stories adding layers between us and the people we wish to love us. Stoics like Marcus Aurelius caution that no bond long endures without truth as guiding light. Yet we shy from illuminating our darkness, hiding struggles, quirks, even delightfully weird passions that add soulful color. We reduce ourselves to pale shadows in the service of pleasing, easy to exist beside but holding almost no depth one can sink beautifully into. This niceness denies friends and partners the complexity that makes us human. While revealing oneself remains daunting, you may be surprised at connections flowering when you voice struggles aloud, or grant glimpses beneath your helpful facade. The weights of assumption and projection lift when we offer our loved ones the gift of our whole selves, not just what we think they expect we ought be. Consider what people special to you must miss without your most intimate interior known. Kindness must make room for courage and candor, should it wish not to ruin what it hopes to nurture most. Number 12. You become a poor model for kids. In our desire to raise kind and helpful children, we may overcompensate, modeling perpetual self-sacrifice rather than balanced self-care. By continually overriding our own needs for rest, joy, and healthy boundaries, we indirectly teach little ones to ignore their own soul's wisdom in favor of reflexive people-pleasing. We condition them for lives of quiet desperation cloaked as sainthood. Yet true kindness derives not from endlessly depleting the well of self, but sustained practices of nourishment that allow us to be generosity embodied. When weary children witness us eschewing nourishment for more empty pleasing and striving, we implicitly grant them permission to do the same regardless of personal cost. They adopt our exhaustion and confusion about where own lives end and others' needs begin. Stoics like Marcus Aurelius wrote frequently about instilling future generations with skills for upholding personal health along with communal care. We best teach wisdom not through preaching selflessness from depleted states, but through exemplifying how to flourish with integrity. Building in margins, savoring leisure guilt-free, politely refusing asks overwhelming to us. This passes on invaluable knowledge of honoring humanity rather than divinity alone. Guide young ones watching your daily moves to see that unlimited kindness stems not from saintly self-deprivation, but practicing true fullness of self. Show them to love others through first loving their own beautiful journey. Where your actions lead, impressionable hearts will follow. Mind well what patterns your parental modeling etches into your children's destiny. If you are listening to this, thank you for staying till the end. If you feel any of these Stoic lessons resonated with you today, feel free to start a Stoic discussion in the comments. I welcome Stoic discussions as they are what the great Stoics like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca advised for. As we stated before, if you're interested in Stoicism and self-improvement through the great Stoics like Marcus Aurelius, then our Stoic newsletter, which you can join in the description, is perfect for you. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, and if you want more content like this, subscribe and hit the bell. Thank you for watching, and as always, I hope you find peace and serenity in the Stoic ways.